search is underway for those who are behind these evil acts. I've directed the full resources of our intelligence and law enforcement communities to find those responsible and to bring them to justice. We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbor them.
On March 19, 2003, the conflict known as the Iraq War began. This occupation went on until December 15, 2011, which is when it officially ended. During their time in Iraq, American soldiers faced many hardships. Not only did they have to deal with terrorists, but also the harsh living conditions of the area. While the invasion of Iraq has ended, the American occupation has spread onto other countries in the Middle East, such as Afghanistan, and possibly in the not-so-distant future, Iran. The events of September 11th issued the country into a state of panic. It has not only brought on the intervention of American troops into the Middle East, but also has caused the tightening of security back at home. A new administration called TSA, or Transportation Security Administration, was created by the Aviation and Transportation Act, which was passed by the 107th Congress on November 19, 2001, as a direct response to 9/11. TSA made several changes in airport security shortly after 9/11. Some of these changes include the mandatory removal of all shoes and jackets at checkpoints, the screening of all baggage, and the body scan machine. While terrorism seems to be a major reason as to why American troops are in the Middle East, is it the only reason? Let's see what the American population has to say. Name?
My name is Keith Johnson.
And what did you do in the military?
I was a F-15 mechanic.
Alright. And I understand it was in Saudi Arabia?
Yes.
Alright. First question, what are your viewpoints on the war on terror?
I think it's a good cause, but I think we're headed down the wrong path right now.
Why do you think we went to Iraq?
I honestly believe that the current administration at the time believed that there were weapons of mass destruction and that Saddam Hussein would use them, and I do believe he would have if he had them. And I fully supported the mission at the time.
Do you think that oil could be a reason as to why we're in the Middle East right now?
Absolutely, and I think it should be a reason. I think that oil is too important and we depend on it far too much to not protect it.
Alright, thank you. Do you think that oil could be a reason as to why we're in the Middle East?
No, we're not over there for the oil, but we should be. We should take the oil for all the ones that's died for no reason at all.
Do you think that oil could be a reason as to why we're in the Middle East right now?
Honestly, that's the only thing I hear about is the Middle East and oil, so for all I know, that's the only reason why we're in the Middle East.
Do you think that oil could be a reason as to why we're in the Middle East right now?
Right now, I don't think it's a reason we're in the Middle East right now, because honestly, the terrorist organizations have absolutely nothing to do with the government, and that's what controls the oil. I think that Gulf War I, that those actions were motivated because of oil. Right now, it wasn't so.
Could it be possible that we went to Iraq for other motives than simply fighting terrorism? According to the Defense Department, as of April 2011, the American occupation in Iraq had cost the U.S. $9.7 billion a month. Now, if you ask me, there has to be ulterior motives other than simply fighting a war for the government to be willing to give up that kind of money. The former Indian ambassador to Iraq, Ranjit Singh Kalha, said, quote, "Despite the U.S.'s declared withdrawal of its military personnel and contractors out of Iraq, Washington has prepared to control the country's rich oil reserves in any case." What he is basically saying with this is that despite the withdrawal of troops from Iraq, the U.S. plans to maintain control of the oil reserves in the country. He goes on to say that, quote, "The Americans simply cannot give up the plentiful and very high-quality oil they went there for. It takes $1.50 to take out this oil that's just below the surface. Anybody who has access to this oil can be a game changer." The total world oil production is 61 million barrels a day, or MBD. The amount of oil supplied by Iraq is 5 MBD, or 8% of the world oil production. The amount supplied by Saudi Arabia and the Gulf Emirates is 7.7 MBD, or 13% of the world oil production. With 5% of the world's population, the US burns 27% of the world's oil, or 17 MBD. The US produces 50% more oil than Iraq and Kuwait, yet we still import over half of the oil we use. 12% of the oil we use comes from the Middle East. The rest comes from places such as Canada, Mexico, Ecuador, and England.
Soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen have nothing to gain from this occupation. The vast majority of people living in the US have nothing to gain from this occupation. In fact, not only do we have nothing to gain, but we suffer more because of it. We lose limbs, endure trauma, and give our lives. Our families have to watch flag-draped coffins lowered into the earth. Millions in this country without health care, jobs, or access to education must watch this government squander over $450 million a day on this occupation.
One interesting thing that I found was that if you take a map of all future and current permanent US bases in Iraq and overlay a map of all the oil refineries and oil fields on top of it, you can see that nearly all of the bases are on or near some sort of facility pertaining to oil. I don't know about you, but that makes me wonder.